For years, the entire internet has been holding its breath, waiting for the end of the third-party cookie. I mean, advertisers, developers, all of us. We were all getting ready for this massive shift in how the web works. But then, in a twist that pretty much nobody saw coming, the cookie? Well, it didn't crumble. So let's get into this wild reversal and figure out what it means for our data, our privacy, and really the future of the web itself.
All right, so let's jump right into the main event here. Google's absolutely stunning U-turn on its plan to kill off the third-party cookie. And look, this wasn't just some small tweak to their policy. No, this was a fundamental, ground-shaking shift that sent shockwaves through the entire digital world.
You have to understand, for almost 5 years, we were all on a countdown to what everyone was calling the cookie apocalypse. Seriously, companies spent millions of dollars re-engineering their whole approach for this new reality. And then, poof, the plan was just gone. The question on everyone's mind, from Madison Avenue to you and me, was pretty simple. Why?
So yeah, this didn't just happen overnight. Google's big, ambitious privacy promise from back in 2020, it kind of slammed into a wall of reality. They were getting squeezed from all sides, from the ad industry, of course, but also from regulators who were worried that killing cookies would just make Google even more powerful. So after delay, Google finally threw in the towel on forcing the change and instead pivoted to giving us, the users, the choice. Okay. To really truly get why this is such a monumental deal, we got to get back to basics. We need to understand the tech at the very heart of this whole thing. We're talking about how your browser actually remembers stuff and the different digital pockets it uses to do that.
The easiest way to think of a cookie is like a digital co-check ticket, right? You walk into a website, it hands your browser this little token. The next time you visit, your browser just shows that same token, and boom, the site remembers who you are, your login, what's in your shopping cart, all your preferences. It's a really simple trick to deal with the fact that the web, by its very nature, has a terrible memory.
But cookies aren't the only game in town. As you can see here, your browser also has local storage and session storage, and these things can hold way more data. But just look at that sent to server row. That right there is the key difference. See, cookies are chatty. They get sent back to the website server with every single request. Local and session storage, though, they stay quiet. They live only inside your browser. And that one little distinction, it is absolutely crucial for understanding the security risks we're about to dive into. So all this digital memory is incredibly useful, but it also paints a giant target on your back for attackers. This is where we get into the real tug of war. The constant battle between having a personalized, functional web and one that's private and secure. Cross-site scripting, you'll hear it called XSS, is one of the most common ways things go wrong on the web. It's basically a digital trap. Imagine a website's comment section that doesn't properly check what people are posting. An attacker can sneak a nasty piece of code in there disguised as a normal comment. Now, because your browser trusts that website, it just runs the code, potentially handing the attacker the keys to your data. So here's the playbook for how this works and why it's so incredibly dangerous for anything you keep in local storage. Step 1, an attacker finds a weak spot, like that comment box. Step 2, they inject their script. The next time you visit that page, step 3, the script runs silently in your browser, reaches right into your local storage, grabs your login token, and sends it home to the attacker. And just like that, step 4, your session is hijacked. They can now pretend to be you.
Then you've got this other sneaky one, cross-site request forgery, or CSRF. This attack is even more subtle. It doesn't steal your stuff. It basically turns your own browser against you. Imagine you're logged into your bank account. An attacker emails you a link to a hilarious cat video. You click it, of course. Well, in the background, that page is secretly telling your browser to transfer money out of your bank account. And because you're already logged in, your browser helpfully attaches your login cookie to that request, and the bank has no idea it wasn't you.
So how on earth do we defend against all this? Well, the most important thing is to store your data in the right place. Think of it this way. Sensitive login tokens belong in a digital safe. That's a special type of cookie with what's called an HTTP-only flag. This flag makes the cookie totally invisible to JavaScript, which completely shuts down that XSS theft we just talked about. Local storage? That's more like a wooden crate. It's fine for simple things like your UI preferences, but you should never keep the keys to your account in there. Okay, so how is this all playing out in the real world? Well, because of all these security and privacy debates, the major web browsers are now going down completely different roads. And what that's doing is creating a really fragmented web for all of us. You just can't ignore Chrome's massive dominance here. We're talking nearly 2/3 of the entire market. This means that when Google makes a decision, it doesn't just affect Chrome users, it pretty much sets the rules for the entire open web. And that's exactly why their U-turn on cookies was such a seismic event. And this really brings us to the two competing philosophies that are shaping the web today. On one side, you've got Apple's Safari, which is basically building a walled garden. Its intelligent tracking prevention is super aggressive. It blocks trackers, it limits how long sites can store data. For Apple, privacy is the #1 priority, period. On the other side, you have Google's new approach for Chrome. It's less of a walled garden and more of a public square where you get to set the rules. They're prioritizing user choice, trying to strike a balance between privacy and the needs of that massive ad ecosystem that, let's be honest, funds a huge chunk of the free web. So, with this new reality, user choice in the world's most popular browser and aggressive blocking in the second, what does it all actually mean? For marketers, for developers, and for you? Let's break down the big takeaways. For marketers, the message is crystal clear. Do not get comfortable. This is a temporary reprieve, not a full pardon. Users can, and a lot of them will, choose to block cookies. The long-term game plan is exactly the same as it was before. You've got to reduce your dependency on third-party data and focus on building direct relationships with your customers. That first-party data is pure gold now. And for developers, the two big words are resilience and security. Your apps now have to be built to handle a world where cookies might just disappear at any moment based on a user's choice. And those security best practices we talked about, especially using HTTP-only cookies for authentication, yeah, they are more critical than ever before. Non-negotiable, really. And finally, for all of us just using the web, this whole thing puts the remote control for our privacy squarely in our own hands. In Chrome, you now have a clear global choice about whether you want to be tracked across sites. That's a huge win for control, but it also means the responsibility is now on us to understand these settings and make informed choices about how our data gets used. So the cookie lives to see another day, for now. But Google's big pivot to a user choice model, a model that's controlled from inside its own browser, leaves us with a really fascinating question. It seems like we've moved from a web that was largely dictated by advertisers to one where the browser itself is the ultimate gatekeeper of our privacy. So who do you think really holds the power now? Who's going to have the final say over the future of our digital lives?